one of the most exclusive institutions in the world. But I'm not here to glorify the Ivy League. I'm here to warn you that the promise of American higher education, of opportunity through meritocracy, is under attack. I'm a legacy student at Brown. I went to a prep school that feeds to the Ivy League, and my parents are doctors who can afford the $93,000 a year sticker price. In other words, I'm exactly who the Ivy League was built for. But what about the kids who weren't born on third base? Statistically speaking, for a smart kid from a poor family, an Ivy League degree can power their ascent to the upper income brackets better than anything else. That's the American dream. But today, that dream is now a luxury good. According to the New York Times, at Brown, the median student's family makes over $200,000 a year. Half the student body comes from the top 5% of earners. And research by Brown's own professor, John Friedman, shows that even equally qualified low-income students are vastly underrepresented. At this very moment, the American people are tightening their belts, and Brown is raising tuition to beyond $90,000 a year. And even while charging students the price of a luxury car, Brown is on track to run a $46 million deficit this year. Where's all the money going? I'll tell you where it's going. It's going into an empire of administrative bloat and bureaucracy. Brown employs 3,805 full-time non-instructional staff for just 7,229 undergrads. That's one administrator for every 2 students. This isn't education. This is bloat, paid for on the backs of students and families who are mortgaging their futures for a shot at a better life. Meanwhile, Grace Calhoun, Brown's athletic director, earns over $1 million. A household assistant on payroll tends to University President Christina Paxson. And when budget cuts are made, these expenses stay while the student experience deteriorates. My dorm floods when it rains, and the burger patties in our dining hall have been replaced by an unappetizing beef mushroom blend. The idea that Brown's administration can be streamlined isn't conjecture. We didn't used to have these many administrators. Across the nation, the number of university administrators has risen by 162% in recent decades. And it's no coincidence that correspondingly, the cost of education has risen 181% in inflation-adjusted dollars since the 90s. Across the pond, a world-class education at Oxford or Cambridge can cost about half as much as an Ivy League degree, in part due to a much lower administrative burden. The status quo has a real human cost. I recently learned of a brilliant young man from Pensacola, Florida, who got into Brown but was forced to walk away because the financial aid wasn't enough. Brown says it meets 100% of demonstrated need, but Brown gets to decide what that need is. Middle-class students in particular suffer from these policies, earning too much to qualify for generous scholarships, but not enough to go to Brown without straddling themselves with significant amounts of debt. And let's not forget that Brown is one of several Ivy League schools that settled a federal antitrust lawsuit last year for allegedly colluding to suppress financial aid offers. I'm a reporter for the Brown Spectator, and to document this problem, I created a website called Bloat at Brown that used AI to assess whether each administrative role was actually necessary. I sent each administrative employee a Doge-style email to ask them, what do you do all day? Instead of answering, Brown's response was retaliation. My social security number was leaked. Our website was hacked. And Associate Dean Kirsten Wolf launched a disciplinary investigation into a litany of baseless charges, such as emotional harm. When they couldn't get me, they charged every single board member of the Brown Spectator, an unprecedented attack on student journalism. But we refused to back down, and we won our hearings. There was no misconduct, only exposure, and that's what Brown feared the most. This committee has a responsibility, not just to investigate Ivy League antitrust violations, but to reclaim the American dream from those who have twisted it into a racket. I call on you today to subpoena Brown's president, Christina Paxson, and ask her why Brown costs $93,000 a year.
$93,000 a year. Now, doing a little bit of research, the average Ivy League grad, after about 5 years, they're earning about $80K, which is a substantial amount of money. I'm not poo-pooing $80,000. That's a good chunk of change. That's a good earning or a good wage. But at a $90,000 a year clip, is it worth it? I don't think so. That's just my opinion. But we'll start with you, Minister. You can go with this wherever you want to go. What are your thoughts on any of this?
I'm impressed that finally someone's starting to talk out about this, and I admire the young man for the way he expressed himself and the work he's doing. It's been a racket for a long time. This is the college system has been a racket for a long time, especially in the Ivy League schools. All that money was going someplace. Not only is the money going to the wrong people, but it's coming from the wrong people. A lot of foreign countries have been putting pouring money into these schools. So yes, I'm glad that it's being talked about. It should have been talked about a lot long ago, and it should be talked about a lot more now. You cannot have this kind of racket going on in our nation be helped, because these same people who are being in these racket schools are being taught false information. So it's a lot going on here that's harming our nation. But yeah, they need to shut a lot of these schools down, remove a lot of these people that are running these schools. They need to be investigated. They need to be their finances needs to be examined carefully on a regular basis. Where the money's going to, who's getting paid what. That has to be done, because if you don't put attention to it and start dealing with it, it's going to continue. And I'm glad to hear that happening. I hope it happens a lot more often.
We need to have an honest conversation about education in the United States, and that's across the board, from pre-K all the way up to doctorate programs. Not everybody's supposed to go to college. And sadly, I think the reason Brown and look, y'all know I love Morehouse, but the reason these schools are able to raise these numbers is because everybody's trying to get into them, but everybody doesn't need to go to them. And therein is the rub. And I think if we just had an honest conversation, and you know what, maybe you don't need to go to college. Maybe you are a trade school type of kid, and move on. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Make trade schools great again. And I think if we really push that and had an honest conversation, I think a lot of us would be happier. And I don't think we would have because Brown's going to do this because they get 50,000 applicants every year. I mean, I got a Duke a Duke student right here. I think they got it was some astronomical number this year of students and applicants. It's a lot. So I totally can get why people have that problem and such like that. But I think it's because we've created this gross supply that's caused for fraud. It's kind of like if there's a big supply for people that just will pay anything for Jordans, well, that means that there's going to start becoming fake Jordans on the market, because everybody wants to wear Jordans, or everybody wants to wear Adidas, which are the better and superior shoes. My problem is because we've flooded so many people wanting them, the supply, the demand has outstripped the supply. So now we got this bogus supply out here that people are realizing, like, dang, I've been getting fake Jordans. Or these fake shell toes, and I really shouldn't even got them. There we go.
Celeste, I want to get you in there on a conversation, and Jay Witt, I think you're absolutely right there. You have entirely too many people going to college, but this is a trickle down from high schools. You're not really allowed to discuss. One of my friends is a football coach. He coaches high school football out here. And he's had conversations with the kids that he coached and letting them know, like, hey, trade schools are out, maybe starting a small business, some form of service business. That's a route that you could attend as well. The military is another route that you could go out of high school. Everybody is not college material, and everybody shouldn't have to go to college. Well, he was saying that some kind of way it got back to an administrator. He gets pulled into the office and say, hey, you can't talk like that to these kids. You can't tell them that they can't go to college, or that they should not be thinking about going to college. So he was told, stop having those types of conversations. Although he's a football coach, he's not a teacher. He's just a coach. And he's actually trying to give these young men some actual real insight, and he's not allowed to do so without getting his hands slapped. So that's a problem. The other thing, too, is that the guaranteeing that the federal government has done of these student loans, that has also caused the cost to be to go up. It's actually exacerbated the cost, because anytime the federal government starts to guarantee things, you can count that the price of it is going to go up, and it's pretty daggone ridiculous. And the thing is that people go to college and they don't think about college and taking out these loans the same way they would if they were to take the same money, or maybe a fraction of the money, and start a business. You would be thinking about, okay, how am I going to recoup my money if I take $10,000 and start this business, or start this food truck, or whatever the case may be, in comparison to, I'm going to take out $90,000 a year. No one ever discusses, how am I going to pay this back? Even, just looking this up, when you think about an Ivy League grad, that, okay, you make $80,000 a year. Is that enough realistically to pay back a $90,000 loan that you took out 4 times? Is that really enough money to do that? It's really not. And if you went to a bank and said that, and think about this, if you went to a bank and your business did numbers like this, they wouldn't give you a loan. They would not give you a loan. They wouldn't. Celeste, what are your thoughts?
You're absolutely right. I wrote about this extensively in my book. The corruption in higher education and it begins and ends with the Federal Reserve. This idea of subsidizing higher education has made the price go up. If you think in 1970s, a semester in your average state school was somewhere just under $3,000. Now you're looking at $90,000 a year for 2 semesters. So that goes to show you the absolute inflation that has happened with education. And the way most things, if you understand inflation is the distortion of the real price of an item. So if you think of the education itself, the degree as the item, the degree becomes more inflated every May. So as more students graduate in your program, the less valuable that degree becomes, but the more expensive that degree has become. So it is always the truth is it never fails. The higher the price, the lower the quality. So you're paying for a low quality education at an extremely high price. It is it's a deception that I think it should be criminal. Students should stop doing this. Parents should get over this nostalgia of thinking about college and university as it was when they had that experience. They remember when they went to school. They remember the friendships that they made when they went to school. And they remember the way that they were able to enter the middle class as a result of that higher education. That is no longer available to your children. That happened to you 30 years ago, but it does not exist for them. This is a trap to put these children in perpetual debt. And unlike the $10,000 that you mentioned, Wise, that you go to a bank to borrow, this type of borrowing is the worst type of borrowing, because that money is non-refundable, it is non-negotiable, it is non-remittable. It is the only way to borrow money for which there is no consequence and no way to come back later. You can't refinance it. There is no way to renegotiate or get out of that insanely ridiculous debt. It is absolutely the best way to make a debt slave. And the way you do it is, no matter what that person comes out earning, you get paid first. You are owed first. So they are a debt slave from the very beginning of trying to have a work life and trying to establish themselves financially as adults. They are delayed in doing that by somewhere between 10 and 15 years, because the debt that you have placed on top of their head for, in most cases, for a degree that isn't worth the paper it's printed on. This thing is horrible. And parents are in deception, and their deception is being manipulated by high school administrators, and that manipulation is the payoff for jobs programs for professors who, for the most part, couldn't be paid for anything because they possess no skills. This is just a jobs program and a way to money launder to activists posing as professors.
Excellent.
That's an excellent point, Celeste. And you're absolutely right. And the thing is, I said the 10,000. An 18-year-old is not getting a $10,000 loan from any bank. Not one bank. Now think about this. They won't give an 18-year-old a $10,000 loan for a business idea. If they can create a plan, you won't, but they will give you $90,000 a year in a loan.
It's federally
You know what I'm
backed. They've written their money. It's federally backed by our taxpayer dollars.
Yep.
People got to start understanding that our college institutions are probably some of the oldest NGOs in this country. That's where the money's transferred. Brown right now sitting on an $8 billion endowment. What's $45 million deficit to $8 billion? Nothing.
They shouldn't have a deficit with that. There shouldn't be a deficit.
The deficit is so that they can in turn cry to the pop of government to get a bigger check. That's all that is. It's just to take more money from you, so therefore they can in turn give it to their friends and still push that NGO status.
It's a
That's all
racket.
these institutions are. It's a big
It's a racket.
while in turn indoctrinating your children to that same groupthink, so that they in turn don't question. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's what it is. It's a racket that is indoctrination of your children.
Yeah.
And the way they fix that is they make so that your cost of living is so high that mom and dad both have to stay in the workforce and work 40-hour work weeks, so that you can't question the schools, because you got to drop them off to their daycare, which is their public school system, so they can teach your children.
There's ways to combat that, though.
Oh, absolutely, it is.
So there's ways to combat it.
Homeschool, live underneath your means. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But let's face it, on average, the propaganda machine is constantly pushing in your face, including social media, that everybody else has something that you ain't got. And if you just work and grind 80, 90 hours a week, somehow your life's going to be better. It's not going to be better, because I can tell you right now, as hard as I work on in this small business, the more money tax man takes. You only make so much until you get past the gatekeepers. I don't care how hard you work. They're going to get there for the average person, unless you start playing these crooked games. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's a racket.
It's true.
And
you're right.
Unfortunately, the only way.
But how much of this do we need to put on parents? Because, like, even for me, with my son right now in college, I wouldn't allow him to go to one of the bigger schools. I'm like, dude, you're going to the 2-year. It's a fraction of the cost of going to a UM or Salisbury or one of these other schools out there. It doesn't make sense. Financially, it doesn't make sense. Take your butt to the 2-year. I don't care what they're talking about.
What I'm saying. But so what I'm saying is, it is the parents' it's the responsibility of the parents to guide their children. So this is why as the government looks out for the government. The whole point of government is self-survivability. That's its number one agenda. Everything else is secondary, unfortunately. That's why most states, the biggest employer in any state is the state. That's just what it is.
It's like that out here for sure.
Because it's all about self-sustaining. So we need to keep people thinking the same way. So we need to make sure that taxes and the standard of living constantly goes up, while your wages constantly stay the same, so that you can continue to rely on them more and more. That way you can be occupied more and more, because the more you're occupied having to work and daily grind, the less you are paying attention to your children and what they're doing to them.
I always take everything back biblically, and it's the love of money is the root of all evil, right? And this to me is all about the love of money, because I don't even make $93,000 a year. That's not even my
the average person
salary.
makes $58,000 a year.
Yeah,
that's the average salary.
And he's saying there's one administrator for every 2 students. So
that's
you
crazy.
just have a bunch of people there just wasting
study hall
time. Exactly. There's a bunch of people collecting money, just collecting checks. And
in turn, they take that money that they're collecting and they give back to their liberal ideas.
Yeah,
that's the NGO status that you're describing.
100%. So what I'm looking at is, I always look at college, and I always find it very interesting, because, I went out into the workforce, and my sister and I always laugh, because there are people that graduate from college and they come in and they work in when we were working in, while I was working in commercial real estate, and they come graduated with their degrees, and I have a degree in this and a degree in that, and they can't even do the simplest thing that I will ask them to do.
Come on, sis. Come on.
They can't. You're like, can you fix the P&L? They graduated their accounting degree, but can you help me? Can you put the P&L together? The what? I don't understand what that means. Well, what in the world did you go to school for? What do you mean? Why don't you understand what that is?
Wait, hold up, Crystal. Hold up before you keep going. And I'm sorry to cut you. They graduate with an accounting degree, don't know what a P&L is.
She's right. She's right.
That's insane.
Yes. Mm-hmm. There are people that graduate accounting degree, finance degree, and they can't tell you these things. And I'm sitting here now, mind you, I went to 2 years of college, didn't finish, became a mom, and focused on my kids. My sister didn't graduate from college; she finished high school, and that was it. Yet we know more than the people that actually have degrees. And that's the part that's crazy to me. Then what in the world did you go to school for? You just put out all this money and you can't even tell me a simple thing like a line item on a spreadsheet. Like you can't even tell me these things, and it baffles us every time.
But
And
here's yeah,
they
go ahead.
make you feel like you're less than because you don't have a degree. But usually, a good portion of the time, you know way more than the people with the degree. Exactly what y'all said. It's just a piece of paper. And the thing is, I had to go look this up because if this was something because I started doing side work, my side hustles. I was doing public relations and event management. And to me, I never understood why those things became degrees, because that's the love of money is the root of all evil, because they made those things into degrees. Why do you need a degree to do public relations? Why do you need a degree to
Come
do
on.
event management? Like to
Come
put a
on.
party together, to put
Yes.
together an event, you need a degree, and they charge you crazy for these degrees. And mind you, take for instance event management. It became a degree in 2006. So they look at things that they could make money off of. And as they keep going, that's what they're doing. So that's why now we have gender studies as a degree, and how to speak to the opposite sex as a degree. Like, what in the world? Why are
But
these
think about this,
degrees?
Crystal. In the next 2-3 years, all those white collar jobs, those entry level white collar jobs, are being replaced by AI.
Yeah.
Now they're going to go and get $300,000 in debt, and there's going to be 0 jobs for them.
And that's the part. That's why I was very, my son, when he was younger, he wanted to go to MIT, and I was all like, okay, baby, because he wanted to do something in tech and this and so on and so forth. Then as he got older, it was just like, no, Georgia State is good for you. That's cool. Go ahead, go to Georgia State. That's fine if that's what you want to do. But then my thing to my children
Text
has
right
because
there. You know,
I always say to them, do not go to college. I was very adamant. Do not go to college for one of these makeshift degrees. Do not tell me you're going to school for no business administration degree. I don't want to hear it. You better be going in there for a degree because you're about to become some kind of doctor, some kind of lawyer,
Doctor, engineer.
specialized
Right.
engineer, something. Like you better be going to degree to school for that. Because if you come in and you tell me I'm going to be going to go to get a business degree, please go get a job somewhere, because that doesn't make any sense.
Go
That
get a
doesn't make,
job, find a mentor,
because
because that's where
usually
you're going to do it.
when you get those business degrees, again, you come out of college and you know less than the people that have actually just been out there working this entire time. Everybody who goes out and gets a job, I'm telling you, we know more. So it's better for you to go, stop wasting your time, stop wasting your money, stop giving people money. They need to do Doge across all industries at this point, because it's a whole bunch of people taking money, and it's a bunch of slush funds in all industries. Let's just be real. Let's just be
Well, I
real.
hate to
So
say it,
Amen.
we
with
need
the
everybody to go through everything, and we need parents to understand. Stop that whole ideology that they push when you're young. Because y'all know I'm a Gen X baby, and as a Gen X baby, it was all about go get your degree, go get your degree. No, stop doing that to the kids. Look
Yes.
at who your children are. See what they're striving for. And if it does not need college, look. When my kids were in middle school, I made them write a list, and I made them look it up. I said, write a list about the things you want to be when you grow up. And after that, now map it out. How can you get there with or without college? I want you to map that out, because that way, if it doesn't need college, what in the world are you going to college for? Don't go out there trying to take loans. Don't go and do all. It's unnecessary.
when
I
the
don't
world's
want you to
changing.
kind of debts.
Yeah,
I don't want.
exactly. Like this whole. I mean, I hate to say it, but you listen to the experts. In the next couple of years, this world is changing from what we know today. With AI, I mean, people are going to be losing their jobs by the millions.
And I want to pick up on Grasso with this, because we accustomed to living in a situation where people are walking around with all this debt from going to college, and it's sort of their personal problem. The world isn't shaking because you're carrying this amount of debt, and you're hoping that the economy expands so it can accommodate you. And when it contracts, you're complaining or whatever. But it's far more serious than that right now, because Grasso is correct. The laptop class is about to be wiped out, and they don't know it. They don't know that they no longer are needed in the new AI economy, which is coming quick, fast, in a hurry. And when that happens, you're going to have massive amounts of people, several generations of people who are carrying large amount of debts with no possible jobs. It's not that you were laid off and you can move to an industry. You remember they used to talk about transferable skills. You take the skills that you used in one job, you repackage them into a new industry that's expanding. That is gone. There's not, you can't transfer to the AI. You can't become the large model, large language data model. And when that happens, you are going to have a bunch of angry people with no ability to support themselves in the current system. And if you think you are seeing violence and craziness now, you let those people who thought they were elite, who thought they could sit in Lululemons and in yoga pants on a laptop and earn $200,000 a year, find out that there is no place in the economy for them. Talk about hitting the streets.
And then add rolling blackouts on that, rolling brownouts, because of the lack of energy we have in the grid, because of how much energy AI is taking.
Yeah, those data centers.
And the flirtation with socialism that we have now is going to become an all-out love affair.
Economic collapse.
They will topple this country, even if it takes revolutionary means to do that. We are sitting on the precipice of an extremely dangerous situation, and there's very little focus on it.
Exactly.
And so that's why they said that their motto, over there in the WEF&M is to own nothing and be happy, because that is their goal, because to own nothing and be happy.
Yeah. They know economic collapse is coming on a world scale, not just on a country scale. It's a world scale. If you
because
look
they're
at
promoting
economies of
they're
every
promoting
country in the world,
it's on purpose.
They're promoting it.
That's
That's what they need. Wow. They need to collapse the system in order to remake it in the image they want.
I understand what you guys are saying, and I get it. But when we think about the different revolutions that have happened, across the world, and we can just look at it in our country, and you think about the Industrial Revolution and the second Industrial Revolution, every time we had one of those, people came out and said, man, people are going to lose jobs. And they did. But no one ever talks about the new jobs that get created.
True.
AI, yes, is going to cause people to lose jobs. I agree with that. But the fearmonger of there's not going to be any jobs, I disagree with that.
There'll be jobs.
AI is going to create. AI is actually creating new jobs. Everybody said the same thing when during each industrial revolution, because something happened and it caused certain people to lose jobs. If you guys recall, we'll go back 100 some odd years or so, a little more than that. There was horse and buggies, right? And there was an entire industry around carriages and horses and horseshoes for the horses and people who cleaned up the waste from those horses on the streets. And when the car was implemented, people were like, oh my gosh, these cars are going to cost people jobs. And they did. But they created new jobs.
When I can buy a $30,000 robot and teach him how to build a fence, I'm buying 5 of them and I'm firing everybody.
And I do understand exactly what you're saying, but those machines, those robots, somebody's got to program them. Somebody's got to maintain them. Somebody's got to maintain those data centers that keep everything online. So I'm just saying that the fearmonger that AI is going to come in and wipe out everybody's jobs.
No, I said
some jobs are going to go away.
White collar jobs.
Well, some of those jobs are going to go away as well. But I do believe that this new industrial revolution, which is around AI and artificial intelligence and other things, machine learning, big data, so forth and so on. Yes, it's going to cost some jobs, but it's also creating and going to continue to create new jobs. I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. What are your thoughts? Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on to all so you never miss an upload. Consider joining the ARP family or buy your brother a coffee. That link is in the description box below. Join us Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for ARP in the morning. And as always, keep God first. Stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you all next time. You guys take care, man. God bless. Peace.
Vibes so raw, can't hide the truth. Words so sharp.